what tips have you learned from the marketing that you feel like everybody should be aware of when it comes to marketing?
Um, so all the basics aside, you made your show. It's well edited. Please edit. Um, packaged, nice art, all of that. Now your job is literally trying to figure out what is the value proposition that you're delivering for people. Because I will tell you that my I feel like the first year of working at Inside Quest, and then when we moved over to Impact Theory, um, I don't think my parents would ever listen to a show, or
Mm.
and same thing with my sister. I was like, this is all stuff that you're into, and she's like, hasn't listened. She may have listened to one eventually, and because I think I kept bullying her. But that's the other thing. It's like, you're not creating this for your friends and family, to be honest. They might be like, oh, that's cool,
Yeah.
and share it, but they might not actually give a single fuck,
Hmm.
at all. And it's not that they don't love you, and it's not that. It's that you need to tune it, you need to pick up on a different level of psychology, right? Because the thing is, it's like your friends, your family, they have their own interests. So it's like, if you're making something, you're speaking, you're ultimately trying to speak to one person, and one person, and make them absolutely fall in love enough to talk about it. Because the thing is, think about all the stuff that you're excited about. Think about that show, think about that new dress, think about, that favorite restaurant or that food that you discover. And you're just like, all right, I got to tell my friend who is a foodie, and you send it to them. Or it's like, oh, I got to tell my friend who, oh yeah, they cook all the time. And I just saw this new piece of tech that would probably make their life a little bit easier.
Hmm.
Like, that's what you're trying to kind of manufacture, is some type of experience like that. Whether
Yeah.
is it you're trying to fulfill someone's need to escape, or are you trying to fulfill their need to learn something, to engage with something, to um, just feel something? What is that? And so when the marketing piece of it was starting to kind of break up the larger episode, because again, 45 minutes to an hour is a commitment, right? It's a long commitment, especially a listening commitment, even if it's a visual commitment.
Hmm.
Think about how many times you open up a movie and you're like, oh, this is 2 hours. And you're just
Yeah.
I'm not ready
Yeah.
for the 2 hour
Yeah.
experience today, right? Let me go rewatch Parks and Recreation or The Office or something, because I can do that. Spent the same amount of time, but it's a different experience, because it's broken up. There's a beginning, middle, and end that's 20 minutes long. And at the end of that, you didn't have to use a lot of thought, or lift and retaining. So it's are you in a space for that, right?
Hmm.
So it's the same reason that comedy podcasts, I think, also just do really well, right? Because comedians are used to captivating the attention of people, creating these moments where people are surprised, so they come back and tune in, but also speaking in stories that are about 3 minutes long, 2 minutes long, 1 minute long, that you can just clip out and be like, here's a sample of what it is.
Yeah.
And somebody can share that, they can experience that, because that's the other thing. It's your audience is the more platforms you are on, the more audiences that you have the ability to reach. You have overlapping audience members, but you also have people who are completely unfamiliar. Because when I was for Impact Theory, for instance, there were plenty of people who were we have no idea, they had no idea we had a YouTube channel. They just knew it as a podcast, or vice versa, where they're like, oh, what are you talking about? Apple Podcast, and it's yeah, no, it's it's a podcast as well. Thank you for the YouTube, but it's trying to think about what you need to accomplish on each of those platforms, and
Gotcha.
create making your podcast fit
Hmm.
in that, within that, if that's what you want. Because it's like, you know, getting overly precious about, no, it can only be the full length episode, right? Like there was a period of time where we were testing like putting up the full length video on, I think, Facebook, because it let you do that at the time.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is not gonna work,
Yeah,
y'all.
nobody goes on Facebook
But
for that.
right. But people were adamant. I was like, fine, we can go ahead and test it. But like I'm not gonna stand behind this because I don't think that's how people are gonna consume. I promise you that.
Yeah.
I was right. But that was also when I was like, okay, so can I, now that we tried that, right? Can I try something else? And so that's when we started like clipping out moments that were full moments that delivered on some type of promise to the audience member, and posting those instead.
Yeah.
And letting people know, it's like, oh, if you want to listen to the rest of the conversation, like come to the podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
If you never want to, that's totally fine. You can just enjoy this video and like it's fine by me.
Yeah.
But eventually people do come. Like they'll see enough of the content, and if it's good, and if you're speaking to fulfilling the place that they are in that moment, they'll convert.
Yeah. I'm in that position right now. I've realized like